Maya's pen froze mid-calculation when she spotted Ethan laughing with Sarah Chen at the corner table of the engineering library, his laptop displaying what looked suspiciously like their shared thesis project, except Sarah wasn't his partner. Maya was. The betrayal hit her like a faulty circuit breaker. For 3 weeks, she'd been covering for Ethan's absences, his missed deadlines, his half-hearted contributions to their senior thesis on sustainable energy systems. She'd told herself he was struggling with the material, that her perfectionist tendencies were simply incompatible with his laid-back approach. But watching him animatedly explain concepts to Sarah, concepts Maya had painstakingly taught him, just days earlier, revealed a different truth entirely. Maya Chen had built her entire academic career on precision. Every assignment submitted early, every grade carefully calculated to maintain her 3.97 GPA, every professor's office hours attended religiously. She'd sacrificed social events, romantic relationships, and countless hours of sleep to earn her reputation as the most reliable student in the mechanical engineering program. The partnership with Ethan Rodriguez had been Professor Williams' idea, a way to balance Maya's technical brilliance with what he called Ethan's innovative thinking. What Williams hadn't mentioned was that innovative thinking apparently meant charming your way through group projects while your partner did the heavy lifting. Ethan had always been everything Maya wasn't. Where she arrived to class 15 minutes early with color-coded notes, he slid in just as the professor began speaking, somehow managing to contribute insights that made everyone laugh while still hitting the key points. His easy smile and quick wit had earned him friends across every engineering discipline, while Maya's intensity had earned her respect but kept her isolated. She'd watched him navigate the social complexities of group projects with an effortless grace she envied, never realizing he might be using those same skills to manipulate her. The Sustainable Energy Project was supposed to be their masterpiece, a comprehensive analysis of solar panel efficiency in urban environments, complete with original research and a working prototype. Maya had thrown herself into the preliminary research, spending entire weekends in the lab while Ethan claimed he was gathering inspiration or processing the theoretical framework. She justified his absences by telling herself that everyone worked differently, that maybe his unconventional approach would complement her methodical style. But there was nothing unconventional about what she was witnessing now. Ethan was explaining her research, her calculations, her breakthrough about maximizing panel angles in limited rooftop space. Sarah was nodding appreciatively, taking notes on concepts that Maya had spent 40 hours perfecting. The casual intimacy of their interaction, the way Sarah leaned in when Ethan spoke, how he pushed his glasses up his nose when he got excited about an idea suggested. This wasn't their first study session. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can't make tonight's lab session. Family emergency. You've got this though. The emoji felt like salt in the wound. She screenshot the message, then took a photo of Ethan and Sarah huddled over what was clearly their shared project materials. The evidence was damning, but what hurt more was the realization that she'd been played by someone she'd actually started to care about, despite his flaws. Despite the frustration of carrying the partnership alone, she'd found herself looking forward to their late-night lab sessions. There had been moments when he brought her coffee without being asked, when he listened intently to her explanations, when his unconventional questions pushed her thinking in new directions, that she'd thought maybe she'd misjudged him. Maya packed her laptop with sharp, precise movements, each action a small rebellion against the chaos Ethan had introduced to her perfectly ordered world. She had 48 hours until their next milestone presentation, and now she had to decide, confront him about the betrayal or let him hang himself with his own duplicity. Either way, she was done being anyone's backup plan. Maya arrived at the lab at exactly 7 p.m. the next evening, armed with printed screenshots and a carefully rehearsed speech about academic integrity. What she hadn't prepared for was finding Ethan already there, surrounded by towers of reference, books, and looking more frazzled than she'd ever seen him. Maya, thank God, he said, jumping up so quickly he knocked over his coffee. I've been here since noon trying to catch up on the thermodynamics calculations, but I think I'm missing something fundamental about heat transfer coefficients and save it. Maya's voice was steel. She slapped the screenshots onto the lab bench between them. Family emergency, right? Ethan's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, then something that looked surprisingly like relief. You saw me with Sarah. I saw you giving away our research. 3 weeks of work, Ethan. My work. Maya had planned to stay calm, professional, but anger was bleeding through her careful composure. Was this the plan all along, string along the uptight perfectionist while you coasted through on charm? It's not what you think. Ethan slumped back into his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Sarah is my ex-girlfriend. We broke up 6 months ago because I was failing thermodynamics and she was. She was trying to help me pass. Maya blinked, thrown off script. What does that have to do with our project? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. Ethan ran his hands through his dark hair, leaving it sticking up at odd angles. My family doesn't know I'm struggling. They think I'm this genius engineer like my dad, like my older brother. Sarah was the only person who knew how badly I was doing, and when she offered to help me understand the concepts for our project, I said yes, because I was desperate. So you took my work to impress your ex-girlfriend, to understand it, Ethan said quietly. Maya, I know you think I'm just coasting, but I spend hours trying to make sense of the stuff that comes naturally to you when you explain. Thermodynamics. It's like you're speaking a foreign language I'm supposed to already know. I was embarrassed to ask for more help, so I thought if Sarah could break down your calculations in simpler terms. Maya stared at him, her anger wavering. You've been struggling this whole time? Failing is more accurate. Ethan's laugh was bitter. I'm great at the big picture stuff, the creative problem solving, but the mathematical foundations, I'm drowning. My dad built his entire career on precision engineering, and here I am unable to calculate basic heat transfer without second-guessing every step. The confession hung between them like a challenge. Maya had spent 3 weeks resenting Ethan's apparent effortlessness, never considering that his casual approach might mask the same insecurities that drove her own. Relentless preparation. She looked at the scattered papers on his side of the bench, pages covered with crossed-out equations, margin notes in what looked like 3 different handwriting styles, and color-coded highlights that seemed almost like her own system. Why didn't you just tell me? She asked, her voice softer now. Because you're Maya Chen. You probably understood thermodynamics before you could walk. How do I tell the smartest person in our program that I'm not sure I deserve to be here? Maya sat down across from him, seeing Ethan clearly for perhaps the first time. The easy confidence she'd envied was a performance, just like her own careful perfectionism. You know what I did before our first meeting? She said. I researched you, read your essays from other classes, looked up your previous projects. I was terrified you'd discover I have no idea how to work with other people. Seriously? I've never had a real lab partner before. Professors always pair me with people who just want me to do the work, or they assume I prefer working alone. When William said you were creative and innovative, I panicked. I thought you'd take one look at my color-coded project timeline and request a different partner. Ethan stared at her, then started laughing, not the charming laugh she'd heard him use with classmates, but something genuine and surprised. We're both disasters. The worst, Maya agreed, and found herself smiling despite everything. But maybe we can be disasters together instead of separately. 2 weeks later, Maya and Ethan stood in front of their prototype solar panel array, watching Professor Williams examine their working model with obvious surprise. Their presentation had gone better than either of them had dared hope. Maya's technical precision combined with Ethan's intuitive explanations had created something neither could have achieved alone. The efficiency calculations are impressive, Williams said, studying their data. But what I find most interesting is this adaptive angle system. Whose idea was this? Maya and Ethan exchanged glances. The adaptive system had emerged from one of their marathon lab sessions, when Ethan's frustrated question about why panels can't just follow the sun like flowers had sparked Maya's breakthrough about motorized positioning systems. It was collaborative, Maya said diplomatically. After Williams left, they sat in the empty lab, exhausted but oddly energized. The past 2 weeks had been a revelation for both of them. Once Ethan had stopped pretending to understand concepts he'd never mastered, Maya had discovered that teaching someone else had deepened her own understanding. His questions, which she'd initially found frustrating, had pushed her to think beyond textbook applications to real-world problems. "I owe you an apology," Ethan said suddenly, "for the Sarah thing. Even if my intentions were good, I should have been honest with you from the start. And I owe you one too," Maya replied. "I spent 3 weeks assuming the worst about you instead of just asking if you needed help. So we're even, not quite." Maya pulled out her phone and showed him their grade notification and A+, with a note about recommending their project for the undergraduate research showcase. "This is what happens when we actually work together instead of around each other." Ethan grinned, the expression transforming his entire face. "Does this mean you'd consider being lab partners again? Next semester?" Maya pretended to consider this carefully. "Well, you do bring coffee without being asked. And your terrible jokes somehow make thermodynamics bearable. Plus, someone needs to make sure you don't accidentally blow up the lab. I only did that once, and it was a very small explosion. Twice. And the second one wasn't that small." Their laughter echoed in the empty lab, mixing with the hum of equipment and the distant sounds of campus life. Maya realized she'd learned something unexpected over the past month, that her carefully controlled world had room for a little chaos. Just as Ethan's spontaneous approach had benefited from her structured thinking. As they packed up their materials, Ethan paused. "Maya, what made you decide to give me a second chance instead of just reporting me to Williams?" Maya considered the question seriously. "I think it was seeing how hard you were actually trying, even when you thought you were failing. That's not something you can fake." She shouldered her bag and headed toward the door. "Plus, our project turned out better than anything I could have created alone." Sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected partnerships. Walking across campus together, their easy conversation punctuated by Ethan's observations about architectural solar potential and Maya's calculations of energy efficiency. Neither of them mentioned that somewhere between the confrontation and the collaboration, their partnership had evolved into something that felt like the beginning of everything else. What do you think when someone betrays your trust, but their intentions weren't malicious? Is the motivation behind their actions more important than the impact of their choices? Should Maya have been more understanding of Ethan's initial deception, or was her anger justified regardless of his reasons?